Praise be Jesus and Mary. On this 31st Sunday, in ordinary time, the gospel passage from Luke chapter 19 narrates the encounter between Jesus and Zacchaeus, an encounter between divine mercy and a sinner who is converted and transformed by that mercy. It's one of the most beautiful and encouraging divine mercy success stories in the gospel. And many of these stories and parables highlighting God's mercy are narrated only by St. Luke in his gospel, which is dubbed the Gospel of Mercy. So let's take a look at this passage a bit closely. So St. Luke narrates that Jesus was passing through Jericho. As often happened, a crowd quickly developed, and Jesus was welcomed by them. Some were already convinced, we can imagine, that Jesus was the Messiah. Others were just curious. And then we have the figure of Zacchaeus, the chief tax collector of that post, a rich man, we're told, and of course, despised by the people, and not without good reason. Since generally speaking, tax collectors were dishonest, unfair, and corrupt. At the very least, Zacchaeus was curious about Jesus. He must have heard about him like everyone else did, and like everyone else, wanted to see him too. But Zacchaeus had a problem, we're told. He was short of stature, so he couldn't see Jesus through the crowds, that surrounded our Lord. So when Jesus was passing by, Zacchaeus anticipated that, ran a bit further on and climbed a sycamore tree so that he wouldn't miss the moment and get a good view of our Lord. And when he did this, no doubt, this invited ridicule, scorn, maybe jokes from the crowd making fun of Zacchaeus. But that didn't matter to Zacchaeus, proving himself more than just curious in seeing Jesus, but rather evidencing a very deep desire and determination to really see him, cost what it may. And this is an important lesson for us, among other lessons we'll see. In our search for God, for Jesus, like Zacchaeus, we mustn't worry about what others might think about us or say about us, or maybe do say about us. For example, that we're religious fanatics. We are escapists, kind of escaping reality and religion. We're weaklings. Some believe that religion is for the weak that can't face reality and its dark reality. We're enemies of progress, of the human race, and so on. Wasters of time. God forbid that we miss finding Christ more perfectly, love him more deeply, serve him more faithfully, share him with others more zealously, all because of what others might think of us, the crowd. May human respect never get between us and God and heaven, our growth in holiness. As St. Josemaria Escriva said, "Convince yourself that there is no such thing as ridicule for whoever is doing what is best." Ridicule is just totally unimportant for those who know what they're doing is the right thing. So Zacchaeus got what he wanted, to see Jesus passing by. But he must have seen in Jesus more than a mere man. He must have seen traces of his supernatural virtue, holiness, his divinity. And something too must have happened deep in his heart all the while. Radical conversion, an act of faith, a cry for mercy, something unknown to the crowd, but known or seen by Christ alone. Zacchaeus was following what Jesus would say on another occasion, "Seek, and you will find." We could even say that Jesus, too, was doing something similar, as he would explain, "The Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." While every other religion is essentially about man's search for God, Judaism and then Christianity is about God's search for man, God taking the initiative and reaching out to save man, who can then say, "I was lost, and now I am found." Zacchaeus was no longer lost, but found by Christ. What came next was totally unexpected, both to the crowd and to Zacchaeus. Jesus calls him by name. And not only that, he invites him to come down from the tree and insists that he must dine at his home. And St. Luke narrates, Zacchaeus came down quickly and received him with joy. And unfortunately, others there in the crowd didn't share that joy, but grumbled at Zacchaeus and also at Jesus. For they complained, "He has gone to stay at the house of a sinner." At that point, however, Zacchaeus made a public confession that he would right his wrong, he would give half of his possessions to the poor, and if he extorted anyone wrongly, he would make up for that fourfold. And that was enough for our Lord to declare, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a descendant of Abraham. For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save what was lost." So again, a divine mercy triumph. There are many Zacchaeuses in the world today. Men and women who have heard about Jesus, who are curious about him, who would like to see him in some way, to know him better. We could even say that Zacchaeus represents each and every one of us. We who are sinful like him, but also like him, desirous to see Jesus, to see God, to know and love him, to know and experience that we are loved infinitely by him. To so many despairing souls in our society, Zacchaeus is a great inspiration. One is never, you could say, too sinful, for our Lord to forgive. As St. Ambrose remarks, our Lord chooses a chief tax collector. Who can despair when such a man obtains grace? As to us who are in the church, may we be like Jesus, ever on the lookout for the Zacchaeuses out there in our midst, and perhaps are very close to us and very near to us. Those sinners, deep down, are desiring God. They want to see God. And far be it from us to dismiss them as being unworthy of God's mercy, or even grumble when they actually take a step in the right direction, when they enter into a relationship with Christ, when Christ finds them. Our hearts must beat in unison with Christ's, to be consumed with the same zeal for the salvation of all souls, and this will move us to continue his divine mission in our own lives, to seek and to save what was lost. Praise be Jesus and Mary.
Miserere